When I start a new goal, I am so motivated.
Cause I walk motivation and I talk motivation. Everything about me just screams motivation. Motivation.
I'm so overwhelmed. How are we gonna get through this? I am so overwhelmed. Oh, hey, you're here. Okay, just sit down and have a seat. I was just reading out of chapter 2 of I Love Myself Chronicles. And y'all, change is a lot. But you know, if you're anything like me, when you have a big goal, at first you're all excited, and then when you realize everything that you have to do to make that dream come true, whew, it can leave you feeling a little bit defeated. Yeah, kind of like that. And you know, that includes any type of goal, whether it be in your relationships, whether it be in your finances, whether it be in your health. To fridge? Or not to fridge? That is the question. Fridge! Don't act like y'all don't know the struggle. Don't act like y'all don't know the struggle. It's real. We all feel defeated at times, but don't let that inner critic get in your head. Your dreams are here, your potential's like here. I'm confused. For real? I'm confused. There's a gap and you're not closing it. Why you gotta be so mean? Why you gotta be so mean? Listen, if the inner critic has you going in the direction of thinking that you can't follow your dreams, I need you to turn around now. You can do it. As a matter of fact, inner critic, be gone. No! Now look, I know what you're thinking. You've already heard from every public speaker, YouTuber, coach there is about the power of positive thinking, and if you just think positively, everything will change, and you're tired of all the generic advice. I get it. What you need is concrete steps, a plan, a formula. Hey, a formula. You know, I usually hate on you, but that's actually a good idea. Thanks. Yeah, whatever. I don't like your outfit. You don't like my outfit. We're literally wearing the same outfit. Be gone. I'll be back. You better not be back, and if you do, I got something for you. Now look, haters aside, there is actually a formula. It's called the change formula. My brother, Brandon Dunkley, who's actually a youth pastor, put me onto this. Here's how it goes. Basically, if you have vision and you multiply it by dissatisfaction, and then you add that up with an idea of what your first steps are, if all of that is greater than your resistance, then you can achieve change. Now, this is helpful because look, let's say you're having trouble making the changes that you want in life and you're feeling all frustrated. You can look at this model and you can say, hey, what area am I having the difficulty in? And then you can improve in that area until you actually achieve the changes you desire. Let's use myself for an example. So we're going to talk about this a little bit out of order and start with dissatisfaction. So there was a time in my life where I was really dissatisfied with my career. Why? I was dissatisfied for a while, to be honest, but I was in a relationship, which I talk about in my last episode, so make sure you check it out at the end of this video. But when I was in a relationship, I was so busy focused on the relationship that I was ignoring the other areas of my life that I wasn't happy with. So when we broke up, I really could only look at myself. And that's when I realized that I was really, really unhappy with my career, and it was time to do something about it. So that leads me to the next part, vision. How did this come along? Well, there was a time where it actually worked out that my boss had asked me if I had any ideas to help spruce up the show, and I said, of course I do. I wanted to interview local artists in the Hudson Valley area. And that was huge for me. It turned into a mini series talk show, and it was great. But it made me realize something. I didn't want to interview the artist. I wanted to be the artist. So after a while, after my contract ended, I'll fast forward, I ended up coming home and moved back home to figure it all out. And I was still wondering, like, how am I going to make a career out of being a poet? What's a poet? How am I going to make a career out of being a poet? That's the type of artist that I am, a performance artist, darling, yes. So my brother actually, shout out to Brennan Dunkley coming through again with the gems. He took me to a show called Poets in Autumn, and it was a Christian poetry show, and I was surprised to see that, it was packed, okay? It was packed, like around the block, packed. It was crazy. And I'm like, and then I saw the show and I was like, whoa, this is like representative of so many of the things that I've thought about putting in a show, and it can actually happen. And wait, people will actually pay to see it happen. So those were like the beginnings of my vision. After you have your vision multiplied by your dissatisfaction, you still got to add it up with a little bit of the first steps, okay? Throw some first steps on it. And I didn't know what the first steps were. How do I become a paid poet? And also, I wanted to do public speaking. The idea was mix the poetry up with public speaking, see what happens. How do I make that happen? So I researched, how do you get started as a public speaker? Everything's on Google nowadays. Also, I started getting really involved in the poetry scene. So I always have done open mics and competitions, but I started doing them more and more regularly. And as I was doing these competitions, I was meeting other poets, and I was even meeting paid poets. So I would ask them, like, what do you do? How do you get this popping? And I can say now that I have a plan and I'm willing to learn along the way. But first steps really are important. After you have multiplied your vision with your dissatisfaction, you've added it to your first steps, all of that still has to be greater than your resistance. It's scary, I know. I'm being silly. But seriously, it has to be greater than your resistance. And I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Let me cross my legs. Let me talk that real to you. I had a lot of resistance. I had so much of it. But one thing that helped me to unpack that resistance was therapy. There were things that were triggering to me that I didn't even realize was bothering me. And you guys may be asking, what's resistance? So for me, it looked like every time I tried to make this move, there was like this invisible force of anxiety, depression, excuses, just holding me back from doing what it is that I wanted to do. But therapy helped me to unpack. I'm sure I'll do another talk with you guys about therapy in the future. If you want me to, let me know in the comments. But I can honestly say that resistance has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, because the resistance has been getting smaller and my vision, my dissatisfaction, plus my first steps have all been combined into something that is greater than my resistance, I am making changes, and you guys are going to be seeing a lot more from me because of it. Okay. But also, something that has helped to decrease that resistance is speaking life to myself. And that is why I created a self-love mantra poem, which you guys can see at the end of this video. In conclusion, because we have come to the end of the road here. I'm just messing with y'all. But seriously, I may not have always known that I was working through the formula when I was working through the formula, but that doesn't change the fact that I was, in fact, working through the formula. And now that I know the formula, I can continue to use this to be proactive. If I see I'm having trouble making change, I can look at this formula and say, hey, where exactly am I having trouble? And I can target that area until the changes are met. Now, Let me know, are you having trouble making changes in your life? And if so, is there any part of this formula that can help you figure it out? Also, have you already made a change? Let us know your journey, as always, in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, of course. And lastly, don't forget, you deserve to love yourself. See you next time.
Cause I walk motivation and I talk motivation. Everything about me just screams motivation. Motivation. Motivation.